So first of all, I do want to start this video by stating that Barcelona do have many talented midfielders, more than ever. We have Gundogan and Frenkie, who have been showing their quality in the past few matches. Gundogan has been an amazing number 8. Frenkie de Jong has also been an amazing number 6. They are truly showing their quality. As for Xavi and Pedri, these are two players who are so talented, but they still have a lot to learn. But they are just so good for their age. As for Andreas Christensen, who is a player that has become a central defensive midfielder for Barcelona, he is the player that does give Frenkie de Jong the room to breathe and gives Frenkie the access to go on with the ball and attack. Christensen positions himself very well, but then there comes Fermin Lopez, who does not have the same beginning like Gundogan, Frenkie, Xavi, or Pedri, or even Christensen. Fermin Lopez is a player that came through La Masia and was eventually loaned to Linares last season. Yes, it is true that Xavi also came from La Masia, but he was never loaned to a different club and to come back and try and prove himself. Fermin had to go through a very different route. And it has always been said that usually when we see a player from La Masia get loaned out, we usually say, well, that was it. He was not good enough. He's not going to come back. Eventually, Barcelona are going to be signing somebody else to take that loanee's place. So many thought that Fermin Lopez was not going to make it at that time last season. But then came the summer of 2023, where we saw Xavi Hernandez say, I want to give Fermin Lopez the green light. I want him to come back and I want him to prove himself, because what he did show at Linares has been good enough. And at that time, Mateo Lemán was also making his last few moves before he was going to be leaving. And he said, okay, that is fine. I would also allow Fermin Lopez to return. A couple of weeks later, we saw Fermin Lopez come in for a match playing against Real Madrid. And in that game, Fermin Lopez scored a golazo, right? It was an amazing goal, and we're like, oh my God, could this be our next gem? Could this be a player that we could talk about for the next 10 years? And fast forwarding to today, we can safely say that Fermin Lopez has been a successful loan. He did return and he came back much stronger. Now, in Barcelona, they do call this the Fermin Lopez formula. And it says here, according to Ferran Martinez, Barcelona want to use the Fermin Lopez formula for many players. More youngsters will leave the club on loan so that they can continue to grow away from Barcelona and demonstrate that they can have a place in the first team. With the arrival of Deco and his trusted people, the intention is to change the traditional planning for La Masia players and to adapt it to what other top clubs from across Europe do. Barcelona has a generation of exceptional talents and special cases like Pau Cubarsí and Lamine Yamal, two players who did not need a loan to come back stronger. The maturity of many players often stagnates by staying at Barcelona. In addition, Barcelona believe that it would be better for the players' mentality too, as they will learn different styles and come across many realities. Barcelona's idea is to maintain control over the young players at least until the age of 22 years old. If they can show that they can play for the first team, they will have their chances, like Fermin Lopez. On the other hand, if they do not have the level for Barcelona, they can be sold for a fee more than what they would if they stay at FC Barcelona. So this is basically going to be the whole plan. They want to nurture their youngsters. If the academy does see these players between the ages of 17 to 20 years old get stagnant and they do not improve, they're going to loan that player out to a different club. And like I've said, within the past 6 to 7 years, usually when that took place to a player, they never end up making it back. But Fermin Lopez has been a player that is proving that wrong. Like, he came back and returned much stronger. And I feel like the fact that Fermin Lopez was able to pull it off, he is only going to inspire the next group of youngsters. And that's very important for the future of FC Barcelona. As a matter of fact, there are players today that are in where Fermin Lopez came from. Like, for example, Chadi Riyad, Ansu Fati, Eric Garcia, Serginho Dest, Julian Araujo, and Pablo Torre. To be very honest, I don't see a lot of these players making it back. I do see maybe Ansu Fati returning and also Julian Araujo. As for the other players, I don't know. Because when you speak to me about Chadi Riyad, you have someone like Cubarsí who has been exploding. As for Eric Garcia, it just gets even worse. Cubarsí is like an extension and a improved version of Eric Garcia. As for Serginho Dest, we're going to be having Koundé Cancelo as options, and Julian Araujo is the better right back compared to Serginho Dest. best, I would much rather take Julian Araujo over any other right back that is out on loan. And then of course you have Pablo Torre, a player that I would say should have been the Fermin Lopez of today, but I think that Pablo Torre is a great player, but I don't think that he is going to be having a spot at Barcelona anytime soon. So in the end, I'm very happy with Fermin and the way that he has developed as a player. He's very close friends with Xavi, and that kind of explains to us why he has such an aggressive styles, because I think that they probably talked about it and they're like, you know what, we should probably play the exact same way. Maybe Fermin Lopez was like, you know, I want to play how you played, and that's why we see Fermin Lopez play very aggressively in the pitch, because when we talk about his playing style, he's very in your face. He is always pressing. He is always wanting the ball as soon as possible, always fighting for the ball. He looks like a warrior out there. It really does remind us of Xavi. Now, in terms of pressing and aggressiveness, is Fermin Lopez at that level of Xavi? No, but I think that his intentions are correct, and I love that. I love the passion that he does bring on the pitch. Now, here's going to be another thing, and this is going to be very important. Given the context on what Barcelona need right now, they don't have a true pivot. We have Christensen, who does an amazing job, but we don't have like a true world-class pivot. And because of that, we need central midfielders in our squad that can be aggressive and be confident in everything that they do. This is the reason why in the version of Barcelona that we see today, Fermin Lopez should be the chosen one over Pedri. He should be the one getting more minutes than Pedri. And let me expand on that, because this has been a constant theme in the past 4 to 5 videos. I have been saying that I would much rather choose Fermin Lopez today over Pedri. Now, me saying this does not mean that I'm saying Pedri is bad and that Pedri is a bad player and that he should not be at Barcelona. I still believe that Pedri is an amazing player, right? If you do want to get the best out of Pedri, you place him in the number 8 role and get him close to Lewandowski. That is where you get the most monstrous version of Pedri. But when you have Lewandowski himself losing the ball, or when you have Rafinha or Frankie losing the ball and Barcelona have to transition to defend, every time Pedri tries to defend, it is a liability. Like, I have not seen a single defensive duel that has been won by Pedri in the past 4 to 5 months. Not a single one. I don't know if this has something to do with him being scared to get re-injured because of how much he has to run, or is it because of his mentality and he feels like everything should be passive and that everything is okay when really it's not, or maybe he thinks that he's just too good to be pressing and to be doing things and to be doing the dirty work, and the only thing that he should be doing is like the pretty stuff, like making backheel passes. I don't know why Pedri is acting in this way, but let me tell you one thing. If you're scared of getting injured again because of how much you need to press in certain scenarios, Pedri is gonna have to figure it out, like how Ronaldo figured it out, like how Messi figured it out. You have to understand your body. You have to understand what are your capabilities, and you also have to train much harder to become a stronger player, having a stronger body. This is something that Lewandowski, Messi, and Ronaldo have worked for a lot, even with Frankie de Jong, which is why we don't really see these players getting injured. If it's a mental problem, then that's fine. Like, if your elite mentality is not there, then just go to the bench. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Many players do go through these mental hurdles temporarily, and that's fine. Again, go on the bench. It happened to Koundé in the past 2 or 3 months. Koundé was going through a mental hurdle, and now he came back with a much more elite mentality, and now we see Koundé as one of the best right backs in the world. It's fine. Pedri can go on and sit on the bench, and we can have Fermin Lopez take his spot. If you feel like you're too good to be pressing and to be defending, then by that point, then just leave, because at the end of the day, it's Barcelona over anybody else. This badge goes over anybody's name. If you really feel like you are just too good and you're too fancy to be doing the dirty work, then you are going to have to exit the club. I would like to think that Pedri does not think in that way, and I feel like it's more of he's scared of getting injured. But let me tell you, if it's anywhere near that realm, that type of attitude and that type of form that Pedri's in right now is what's going to have Joao Felix get kicked out, because I feel like Felix feels like he's too pretty to be defending. Every time Felix needs to defend, it's just too passive. Luckily for Pedri, he's a signed player. He's not loaned. So Barcelona can just say, you know, for Felix, you can just leave because you're loaned and you did not work out and you're not bringing the qualities that we ask from you. Also, Pedri is much younger than Joao Felix. So Barcelona is not just going to say, we need to sell Pedri because of what he is not doing. I think that Barcelona are going to be having some more patience with Pedri. It's just that other players are going to be taking his spot for now. Ideally, I would like to see Pedri of 2020, a much more motivated Pedri. But if not, then again, Fermin Lopez will take his spot. And I feel very confident saying that, because Fermin Lopez brings what Barcelona currently need today. His positioning and his runs to the box is also an added quality. He is so attentive when he has to make those runs to score goals. If we also compare the numbers between Pedri and Fermin Lopez, you can very well see that Fermin Lopez, in terms of attacking stats, he is better than Pedri. Keep in mind that Pedri has double the minutes of Fermin Lopez. In shot accuracy, Fermin is above Pedri. In terms of shot per 90, Fermin is above. Shots on target per 90, Fermin is again above. Goals per 90, Fermin is above. The expected goal rate per 90, Fermin Lopez is above. The successful dribbles per 90, Fermin Lopez is above, almost by double, which is crazy because you would assume that Pedri would be a much more successful dribbler, but it seems like Fermin Lopez has improved on that aspect of the game. As for the defensive qualities, you can see, like I have said, Fermin Lopez is the better defender. In successful tackles per 90, Fermin Lopez is much better. Blocks per 90, again, Fermin Lopez is much better. Clearances per 90, Fermin Lopez overshadows Pedri. And most importantly, if you look at the bottom, possession won in the final third per 90, Fermin Lopez is again overcoming Pedri in that aspect of the game. And that's very important because Xavi Hernandez has always wanted his players and for this team to win the ball back in the final third, which is in the opponent's half, because that is what's going to allow you to score more goals. Fermin Lopez is amazing on that. And so for me, Fermin should graduate to first choice sub, meaning that when you have Gundogan, Frenkie, and Christensen starting in the midfield, because that is the most ideal midfield for now and the most balanced one. Once Gundogan gets tired or once Frenkie de Jong does get tired, put in Fermin Lopez instead of Pedri because he should be seeing 20 to 25 minutes per match and not the ridiculous 8 to 10 minutes that he's getting as of now. He has 4 goals and 1 assist in all competitions. Can you imagine what would happen if you give him another 10 to 15 minutes per match? Fermin has only played 675 minutes in the league and only 204 minutes in the Champions League. Fermin Lopez is being underutilized. And so hopefully when we go into this next game against Athletic Club at San Mamés, that is going to be a match that is going to be demanding so much from the players in terms of aggressiveness, intensity, the pressing, the aggressive runs. Fermin Lopez is a player that can give you those things, and hopefully he can get those chances against Athletic Club, which will be a very important match for Barcelona overall. So that is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.